Alright everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be doing another Nomad survival build guide, and we're finally going to be touching on the last character, and that is going to be the Whisperer. The Whisperer you unlock from doing the Sacrificial Altar achievement, which is definitely one of the more difficult achievements out of the ones that are there, just purely because it's a little finicky. But if you are having any issues with that, mostly it's going to be on the third boss most likely, go ahead and watch my Sacrificial Altar video. I'll link that down below. But yeah, the Whisperer is probably, I think, the most interesting class character that I've played in a long time. I really like the mechanic. I like how the character works. They've been changed a couple of times, and I think it's finally in a really good place. It was in a good place before, but it's definitely in an even better place now. So we're just gonna go over everything. The Whisperer, as the last character, has the highest SP cost for its ability out of any other character at 900 SP. For good reason, because it's kind of busted. So stop moving and take control of an immortal spirit. This guy looks like one of the endgame endgame characters on the Crossroads. It's a giant skeleton. Boss enemies target the spirit, which is very important, but normal enemies still target your real body. While active, you are immune to all projectiles. SP regen continues while the spirit is active, which summons more spirits. Recover 10 HP and SP each time an enemy takes damage from a spirit. After the spirit times out, your SP reset to 0 regardless of its progress. So basically, one of the best things about this Whisper is that the bosses as well as the map events will target your spirits. If they didn't, you would just die. But so this makes it to where you could play around a lot of interesting positions on a map, basically. And it also lets you take advantage of the statue heritage, but I can see the statue heritage not being played very often now that map modifiers don't count towards it, and everyone's kind of focusing on farming those gemstones. So I will recommend other heritages other than the statue, but statue's pretty cool with this class. But anyways, so basically you summon the spirit, which you can move around with your mouse, or not mouse, sorry, well, I guess you could, we won't go into the semantics, but you can move it around with WASD just like you would be moving your character, and during this time your character is standing still. You will deal damage with the spirit, and you are also able to pick up EXP gems with the spirit now. That is a new patch that was out during the 4th major update that was added to the class, and that puts it in a really good spot, because before you couldn't pick up any of the EXP gems, so you had to move around. And generally I would pair it together with the statue heritage, because the statue heritage has magnet on all the time. So now that you can collect EXP gems as well as items, you can't get the items with the spirit itself, but you can attract the items to the spirit, and then the spirit will bring them, well, you can bring them back to your main character. This does not work with chests, but it is still pretty fun. And that together, that makes it really good. There's a map modifier that is a speed reduced, so you're basically standing still if you put it on 100%, and that is not a problem for the Whisperer, so it's a really good thing. And so as you're the spirit, you're still regenning SP, and you can cast multiple spirits. You only get to control the main one, but all of the other ones move in the same direction, so they might spawn in different locations, but they'll move in the same direction as everything else. And for every person you hit, you get 10 HP and SP each time you take damage, or an enemy takes damage. So this is how you can cast as many times as possible, and then once your spirit times out, it's reset to 0, because if it didn't, you would pretty much not be able to take damage ever. So moving on to the heritages. Nomad, as always, this is the best heritage in my opinion. It is super strong. The fact that you get all the bonus rerolls for both chests as well as your weapon skills and passives really helps you find exactly what it is you're looking for. And with the new map modifiers making the maps more difficult, I think Nomad is going to be more and more important. There are some niche situations where you might want to play a specific heritage depending on the map modifier you're focusing on, but I think Nomad is the best. Berserker, for this specific class, see, my thing is, it does not say anything in here, which is something I will ask the Fox about, is that it doesn't say anything in here if this HP will go towards you if you're playing Berserker. So I have never played Berserker. If the HP did go to your character, Berserker is insane for the Whisper. If the HP doesn't, I probably wouldn't recommend it, just because losing your HP is always very, hard to take, especially with the map modifiers, the introduction of all these projectiles. I just wouldn't recommend it. Poxbringer, probably a pretty good place. The fact that you're able to regen HP makes this pretty much even better. Poxbringer works really well with the Whisperer, because the Spirit itself doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's definitely very strong for the first like 15 minutes. And with the double damage, you can kind of extend that to like 22 minutes, and then play around maxing out different weapon skills depending on what it is exactly that you're going. So I definitely would recommend the Poxbringer. I think it's a really strong class. Definitely have had no issues with it. The Voidwalker. I actually think the Voidwalker is one of the best classes right now. They just upgraded this heritage. It's much stronger. Also, apologies for saying like class, character, heritage kind of intermittently. It's just kind of in my head. But the Voidwalker just got to upgrade. The AoE damage that it does, the little void pools, actually were increased. So it deals more damage and it scales. That is huge, because honestly, the Voidwalker heritage, I kind of relate it to the Colorless Glyph and the Crusaders AoE aura. It will help you take care of enemies at the beginning of the game really early on. And for a character that you don't really move a lot, and you're more focused on moving your spirit, and sometimes you can't pay attention to what's close to you, having that extra DPS directly on top of your character is huge. So I totally recommend the Voidwalker. Definitely try it out. Also, the sprite looks really cool. I like the sprites for this character. They look pretty fantastic. The Summoner got a pretty huge buff, in my opinion, in this last patch, because now the summons will actually break boss skills, as well as the specters on the map, on the third map. So the specters that spawn at, I think it's 9 and 19 or 10 and 20 minutes, the ones that follow you around and kind of deal damage, not terrible damage, but they're definitely a nuisance. The summoner can actually destroy those with their little guys, because it says, oh, where is it? If a summon is hit with an enemy skill, that skill is destroyed. And technically, the Fox did say that those specters count as projectiles. That's how they're coded. So if your summons run into them, it will actually destroy them. So this can open up a lot of space for you, especially with the boss skills as well. So the summoner is definitely something I would recommend you try out if you're having issues with projectiles in particular. If you're not having any issues with it, or that map event, I don't recommend the summoner, because I don't think it adds anything else other than that. The merchant is always like pretty hit or miss. I think the merchant is very good in niche situations when you're going for like the Dungeon Keeper achievement, which is on the third map. You have no rerolls and you can't use any chests, and having that double weapon skill amount and amount +1 is huge when you're playing. So the fact that you're summoning twice as many, or say you're playing Rat Folk Archer, shooting twice as many arrows, the merchant's just really strong in that situation, but I don't recommend it outside of that. And lastly, the statue. I actually think the statue was the best heritage for the Whisperer class. For the most part, you're playing around your spirits. You're not really playing around your character. So the fact that you got the HP regen tripled and SP regen doubled, and you had the permanent magnet effect, you could have basically endless reach on the map. They have slowed down the Whisper. The spirits used to be extremely fast. They slowed it down a lot, so you can't like get as far as normal, but like on the crossroads originally, you could get to the end of each end. So you could get the portals and everything. So the only negative about the statue is that with those map effects and map events that they're now called, you can't reach them sometimes. And so depending on the map, that will definitely have some negative effects on your gameplay. So like the third map, for example, if you're not able to take care of those crystals, that is going to be huge. So you'd kind of have to play around getting a skull and blowing everything up, because the skulls will kill the map events. So that would be, you'd get one at around like 15-16 minutes. You'd get like 5 chests, and generally, those relics are enough to get you through. But now that the statue is not actually playable during the map modifiers, because it says you cannot select challengers or map modifiers with this heritage. Sadly, unless you're looking to just have fun, or maybe going for a particular achievement, I don't recommend the statue, just because like the game's gonna revolve around these challenges and the map modifiers because everyone's farming those gemstones. So I just sadly think that it's not in a good place right now. For this, I'm just gonna go ahead and play on this map. I'm not gonna do any modifiers because it's not really important. Actually, I put player speed on. But the main thing I want to show you is just the fact that the map event will go towards you. Oh, wow. This looks really good. So, this is what I'm talking about in regards to... Wow. Sorry, in regards to these spirits. So a spirit spawns, and then it'll spawn another one. And they won't exactly spawn on the exact same spots, but they'll spawn around where your character is. And so you might not see them, especially once you hit level 20 and level 40, because you get movement speed increases with your spirit. But they will be moving around, hitting people. So just understand that you're actually doing a lot more damage than you might think. Especially like once I have Spectral Sword, which is 100% needed on this, you're definitely gonna want to take advantage of that. So for weapon skills, like I just said, Spectral Sword is a huge importance. It literally doubles your weapon output, or your damage output, just like, you know, it does for most other classes. But I think it's particularly important for this class, so definitely go that. Outside of that, I don't really have any like very stringent regulations. I think for the most part you're going to be dealing damage with your spirits, even on the bosses. So I mean, I always recommend study as always. You can get item pickup range if you want, but with the change to the spirit being able to pick up items, it's not really that big of a deal. So I don't feel the need to kind of recommend that one. You could always go Immaterial Cloak, and that'll give you a little extra wiggle room. At level 5, Immaterial Cloak will drag the items towards you every time it activates, and that's actually super relevant, so definitely recommend it. But outside of that, in SP regen, you are free to do whatever you want. Since your character is standing still, well, for the most part standing still, because every time you cast, you stop moving. Things like Colorless Glyph or Chain Light Shock, anything that does like damage constantly around you, definitely would recommend it, because you are going to be stuck standing still, and that's a big deal. And then, like always, Ascension is always a huge recommendation, because Ascension is probably one of the best skills in the game. It gives you the most value for the ability, basically, and it lets you not worry about your passives, basically. Things like projectile speed and all that good stuff, because you'll get enough with that you don't have to worry about it. So like I said, you can pick up experience with the spirit, and we'll go over for this heart right here when my next spirit spawns. But you'll see that the heart's gonna get dragged towards the spirit, and then you can just walk that back over to your character. And that works with magnets, that works with skulls, that works with SP regen, all of that good stuff will work. So other than that, you are free to do whatever you want. I like picking up boss skills because boss skills are always good, such as Fireball and Magic Missile. I would say those are good because they target the closest enemy, and probably the boss might be standing on top of you. In this situation though, I think it's more important to clear out the mobs that are near you than it is worrying about the boss, because as you'll see at 7 minutes, the bosses are honestly the last thing you need to worry about when you're playing this class. This class is really cheeky in regards to what you need to do with the boss, and honestly it's kind of disgusting, I have to say, in a good way. I think it's a needed mechanic that without, I think the character would probably be awful. Unfortunately, size does not work with these spirits. It used to, but they changed that very quickly, because that would be way too good. As you can see, I mean, just between my SP regen and Spectral Sword, I'm spawning like 10 of these every single time I use the skill, and that takes up a large majority of the map, so you don't really have to worry too much about weapon skill size. Obviously, if you want to pick it up for your other skills, go for it, but to each their own. And the boss will be spawning here. The only thing I have to say about the boss, specifically if you're doing this 100% reduced movement speed, which I recommend because it's just free gems. I mean, I know standing still is kind of boring, but it's free. So the boss just spawned, and it is, I think, down below me. Yeah, it's down below me. So you'll see the boss. Wow, he is super far down there. Oh, he's stuck. That's funny. Alright, the boss is moving now. So the boss is going to track your spirits. It's actually not going to go towards your character, because if it did, that would be insanely unfair, in my opinion. You probably wouldn't be able to play this class, so that's a super, super duper nice thing. The only negative is that you can't get that chest if you're not playing... if you're playing 100% reduced speed. So you can go 99 and move really, really slowly if you really want to. But for the first and the second map, I don't really think that relics are necessary. I don't find them super important. On the third map, you definitely want them. So I would definitely recommend making sure you get the relics on the third map. I have not played too many crazy modifiers on that map yet, because the map itself is in a pretty good spot. But it definitely gives you the most gemstones. So I've been trying to do 100% runs with everything turned on. That is not fun, I have to say. But anyways, Whisper, I think, is a very, very fun class. You saw how quickly it killed the boss. The bosses are the least of your worry. As long as you upgrade, like, Colorless Glyph or any other ability that you like to clear out the normal generic mobs, you're going to be in a really good place. And then all you have to worry about is getting the XP to you, which you could do with your spirit. And if you don't want to worry about that, just pick up item pickup range or immaterial cloak level 5. The most important thing with this class is that Spectral Sword, I would try and get it to level 10 so you get the second extra sword. That's going to be 3 times the amount of spirits, so it's just worth it in my opinion. And then SP regen, and then other than that, you really can do whatever you want. I highly recommend Ascension in general with every class and every build, but other than that, I think the Whisper gives you a lot of wiggle room. It might not be the most exciting gameplay though, because you don't get to move a lot. I have the same problem with the Whisper that I do the Divine, and I feel like I am stuck playing in like a very small area, and your weapon skill goes off so often that you don't really get to move around that much. So you're playing less moving and you're doing more with the spirit than you are really anything else. But other than that, I don't really see any negatives. This class is great for farming gemstones, so if that's what you're doing, definitely look into it. I recommend it. And almost every heritage is really strong on it, so I definitely will get back to you on if the Berserker heritage heals or not with the Whisper. I'll put that in the comments below once I get a response from Fox. He's usually pretty good about that. And other than that, guys, this will be my last character build until the next characters are released, so I'm looking forward to those whenever major update they're on. Probably not 5 because he's going to be doing weapon skill overhaul, but maybe 6 or 7. You'll never know. But as always, thank you guys so much, and I will see you on the next one.